Taeyang stared at the radar screen and frowned. Something massive had just appeared near Mars. His cargo ship, the Morning Star, was supposed to be alone out here. He had been hauling supplies to the mining colonies for 3 years now, and space was usually empty and boring. "Hannah, are you seeing this?" He called to his engineer. Park Hannah floated up from the engine room, her tools still in hand. She looked at the screen and her eyes went wide. "That's not one of ours. That's not human." The object was huge, maybe 10 times bigger than their ship. It had a strange shape, all curves and lights that pulsed in colors humans didn't use. Taeyang felt his heart beat faster. Everyone on Earth had wondered if aliens existed. Now he knew the answer. "Should we run?" Hannah asked. Before Taeyang could answer, his communication system crackled to life. A voice spoke in perfect Korean, though it sounded wrong, like a computer trying to sound human. "Human vessel, you will stop your movement. We are the Galactic Coalition. Prepare to be boarded." Taeyang looked at Hannah. She shrugged. "What choice did they have?" "We're stopping," he said into the microphone. "Please don't shoot us." 30 minutes later, 3 aliens stepped onto his ship. They wore no suits, just strange uniforms that seemed to glow. The leader was tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 eyes. His mouth moved, but the words came from a device on his chest. "I am Overseer Velther of the Galactic Coalition," the alien said. He sounded bored. "You are the first humans we have made direct contact with. You should be honored." Taeyang stood up straight and bowed slightly, the way his mother had taught him. "We are honored. I'm Captain Kwan Taeyang. This is my engineer, Park Hannah. Welcome to our ship." Velther looked around the cargo hold with his 4 eyes. He seemed disappointed. "This is your spacecraft? It is very simple. Basic metal construction. Chemical fuel, how primitive." Hannah's face turned red, but she stayed quiet. Taeyang felt angry too, but he kept his voice calm. "It works well for what we need. We've been traveling between Earth and Mars for years without problems." "Yes, we have been watching you," Velther said. He walked around, touching things with his long fingers. "Your species discovered faster than light travel only 2 years ago. You are babies in the galaxy. There are thousands of species older and wiser than you." One of the other aliens pointed at something in the corner. It was a small drone, damaged and dark. Taeyang had found it floating near his route last week. He was planning to sell it to a salvage company. "That is Coalition property," the alien said. "You stole it?" "No," Taeyang said firmly. "I found it. It was dead and drifting. I followed salvage law. If no one claims it within 30 days, it becomes mine." Velther made a sound like laughing, but colder. "Human law means nothing out here. We are the law in this galaxy." Hannah stepped forward. She had been quiet until now, but Taeyang knew that look on her face. "Actually," she said, "if you want it back, I can help. One of your other drones has been sending broken signals for the past hour. I noticed it on our sensors. Your communication array must be damaged." Velther's 4 eyes all focused on her. "Impossible. Our technology is advanced beyond your understanding." "You could not detect such a problem," Hannah smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. "Come with me." She led them to her small workshop. She had already pulled up the signal data on her screen. "See, every 7 minutes you get a burst of static. The pattern suggests a loose connection in your primary relay. It will fail completely in maybe 3 or 4 days." Velther stared at the screen. He turned to his companions and they spoke in their own language, fast and worried. Finally, he looked back at Hannah. "Can you fix this?" "Probably," Hannah said, "but I'll need to see the equipment." 20 minutes later, Hannah was inside the Coalition ship with 2 of the aliens watching her closely. Taeyang waited on his own ship, nervous. What if they kept her? What if this was a trap? But Hannah came back after an hour, looking pleased with herself. "Fixed," she said simply. Velther seemed confused. "How?" "You used primitive tools and methods we abandoned centuries ago." "Sometimes the old ways work better," Hannah said. "You had too many complicated systems trying to do one simple job. I just reconnected the main line and bypassed the extra parts you didn't need." The alien was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke again, and this time he sounded less bored and more serious. Humanity has achieved faster-than-light capability. This means you are ready to join the galactic community. But first, you must prove you are worthy. The Galactic Coalition will send representatives to your homeworld. You will be tested. Tested? Taeyang asked. What kind of tests? Tests of technology, diplomacy, and strength, Valther said. All species must pass these tests. It shows you are ready to be part of something greater than yourselves. If you pass, you will join the coalition. If you fail, he paused. If you fail, you will remain in your small solar system for the next 1,000 years, alone and isolated. Taeyang felt cold. And if we don't want to be tested? What if we're happy the way we are? All three aliens stared at him. Valther's 4 eyes blinked in a pattern that looked like surprise. You refuse the honor of joining the coalition? I'm not refusing anything, Taeyang said carefully. I'm just asking. What if Earth says no thank you? Valther made that cold laughing sound again. No species has ever refused. You will understand when our representatives arrive. The coalition brings order to chaos. We bring wisdom to the ignorant. You need us, even if you don't know it yet. He turned to leave, his companions following. At the airlock, he looked back at Taeyang. Prepare your people, Captain. The coalition is coming. In 3 months, your testing will begin. We will see if humanity deserves to walk among the stars. Then they were gone. Their massive ship disappeared. In a flash of light, leaving Taeyang and Hana alone in the dark. Hana was the first to speak. Did he just threaten us? I think so, Taeyang said, but he made it sound polite. I don't like him, Hana said. Did you see how he looked at everything? Like we were insects. I noticed, Taeyang said. He sat down heavily in his captain's chair. We need to tell Earth. This is bigger than us now. He began recording a message to send home. As he spoke, he thought about Valther's words. The coalition was coming. They expected humanity to be grateful, to accept their tests without question. But something in Taeyang's stomach felt wrong about all of it. The alien had called them primitive and ignorant. He had treated them like children who needed guidance. But Hana had fixed their technology in less than an hour. They had underestimated humans once already. Taeyang wondered what would happen when they did it again. 3 months passed quickly. The coalition fleet arrived at Earth exactly when they said they would. 50 massive ships appeared in orbit, blocking out the stars. People all over the world looked up at the sky and felt afraid. Admiral Yoon Jin-ho stood in the United Nations Command Center and watched the alien ships on every screen. He was 50 years old and had spent his whole life in the military. He had fought in wars and survived disasters. But nothing had prepared him for this. They're requesting a meeting, his assistant said. They want us to send our best people for the trials. Jin-ho nodded slowly. Earth's leaders had been arguing for 3 months about what to do. Some wanted to fight. Some wanted to hide. Some wanted to welcome the aliens with open arms. In the end, they decided to take the tests. What choice did they have? The team Earth sent was small. Admiral Jin-ho would handle the military trial. Choi Meek-young, a diplomat who spoke 7 languages, would handle the diplomacy trial. Park Hana, the engineer from Taeyang's ship, would handle the technology trial. They also sent Lee Bo-ura, the best pilot in the Earth fleet, and Captain Taeyang himself, since he had met the aliens first. Valther met them on the largest coalition ship. Welcome, he said, though he didn't sound welcoming. You will face 3 trials over the next 3 days. We do not expect you to pass all of them. Most species fail at least 2 trials on their first attempt. This is normal. You are young and inexperienced. What happens if we fail? Meek-young asked. She was a small woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing. You return to Earth and try again in 100 years, Valther said. By then you might be ready. The first trial began immediately. Valther led Park Hana to a large room filled with strange machines. In the center was a huge broken device, all twisted metal and dark screens. This is a quantum energy converter, Valther explained. It powers our ships. This one is broken. Most species take years to understand our technology well enough to fix it. You have 3 days. If you can repair it in that time, you pass the technology trial. Hannah walked around the machine slowly, studying it. The other humans waited outside, nervous. They couldn't help her. She was alone. 3 days seemed like a long time. But Hannah worked without sleeping. She took the machine apart, piece by piece. She drew diagrams and ran tests. The coalition engineers watched her but refused to answer her questions. On the morning of the 3rd day, Taeyang brought her coffee and found her smiling. "I've finished," she said. "Already?" Taeyang asked. "It's only been 3 days." "I know," Hannah said. "It wasn't as complicated as they thought. They built it with too many extra parts. I removed what they didn't need and rewired the core. It's actually more efficient now than before." When Velther came to check her work, his 4 eyes went wide. "Impossible. You should not be finished yet." Hannah pressed a button. The machine hummed to life, glowing with blue energy. "It works," she said simply. "Do I pass?" Velther was quiet for a long moment. "Yes, you pass. But this is irregular. Most species require years of study." The second trial was diplomacy. Mikyung sat in a room with a simulation program. On the screen, 2 alien races were fighting over a planet. Both claimed it was theirs by ancient law. Both were ready to go to war. Mikyung had to find a solution that made both sides happy. She studied the problem for hours. The coalition had been running this simulation for centuries. They had a solution they thought was correct. The stronger species would take control of the planet, and the weaker species would be given money and resources to compensate them. It was fair, they said. The strong had earned their power, but Mikyung saw a different answer. She dug into the history of both species. She found that thousands of years ago, before either species had space travel, they had lived on the planet together. They had shared it peacefully. It was only when they became advanced that they started fighting. Her solution was simple. Divide the planet in half. Let both species live there again, like they did in the old days. Force them to work together or lose the planet entirely. When she presented this to Velther, he looked confused. That is not the correct answer. The simulation is designed to teach that the strong must lead the weak. This is the natural order. With respect, Mikyung said calmly, your natural order creates endless war. My solution creates peace. Isn't peace better? The coalition judges argued for hours. Finally, they agreed she had passed, but they weren't happy about it. Her solution was too different from what they expected. The final trial was military combat. Admiral Jinho and pilot Bayo-Ra would fly against coalition ships in a simulation. If they survived for 30 minutes, they passed. Jinho studied the coalition ships and saw they relied on powerful energy shields and laser weapons. They fought with overwhelming force, just attacking directly until the enemy fell. It was effective, but it was also predictable. Bayo-Ra, he said to his pilot, I have an idea. It's going to sound crazy. I like crazy, Bayo-Ra said with a grin when the trial began. The coalition ships came at them exactly as Jinho expected. Big, powerful, and direct. But Jinho had loaded their small ship with old-fashioned missiles. The kind that exploded with physical force instead of energy. The coalition shields were designed to stop energy weapons. They weren't ready for simple explosives. Bayo-Ra flew in fast, dodging laser fire with moves that made Jinho's stomach turn. She got close to the enemy ships and fired every missile they had. The explosions ripped through the coalition shields like paper. The simulation ended in 12 minutes. Complete human victory. Velther stared at the results in disbelief. You cheated. You used primitive weapons. You didn't say we couldn't, Jinho replied. You said survive for 30 minutes. We did better than that. This is not how warfare is conducted in civilized space, Velther said angrily. Then maybe civilization needs to remember that old weapons still work, Bayo-Ra said. She was still smiling. The Coalition Council met to discuss the results. The humans waited for hours, nervous and tired. Finally, Velther returned. He didn't look happy. Humanity has passed all 3 trials, he said slowly, like the words hurt him. This is extremely rare. You are only the 4th species in Coalition history to pass all trials on the first attempt. The humans cheered. They had done it. They had proven themselves, but Velther wasn't done talking. You will be granted provisional membership in the Galactic Coalition. But understand this. You are still young. You still have much to learn. We will be watching you closely. Very closely. Something in his voice made Taeyang uncomfortable. This didn't feel like a victory. It felt like a warning. That night, back on Earth, the humans celebrated. The news showed parties in every major city. Humanity had joined the galaxy. They were part of something bigger now, but Taeyang couldn't celebrate. He kept thinking about the trials. They had been designed for humans to fail. The Coalition expected them to need years to pass. They wanted humanity to be grateful, to accept Coalition guidance. Instead, humans had passed in 3 days using their own methods. They had shown the Coalition that human thinking was different, creative, and effective. Taeyang looked at his friends. Hannah was explaining how she fixed the machine. Mikyung was talking about her diplomatic solution. Jinho and Biora were laughing about the missile trick. They had won. But Taeyang had a feeling the real test was just beginning. The Coalition hadn't wanted them to pass. Now they had to figure out why. 6 months after passing the trials, Taeyang was flying cargo routes again. But now he traveled beyond the solar system, to Coalition trading posts in alien worlds. Earth was part of the galaxy, and business was good, except something felt wrong. Every Coalition station he visited had the same rules. Human ships could only dock in certain areas. Human traders could only sell certain goods. Human pilots needed special permits that other species didn't need. When Taeyang asked why, the aliens always gave the same answer: you are new. These restrictions are for your own protection. It didn't feel like protection. It felt like control. One day at a station near a planet called Vexor, Taeyang met an alien named Raveth. Raveth looked like a large cat that walked on 2 legs with soft gray fur and intelligent green eyes. He was a scientist, and he was different from other aliens Taeyang had met. Raveth was friendly. I saw what you did with the trials, Raveth said quietly over drinks. Very impressive. Very dangerous? Dangerous? Taeyang asked. How is passing tests dangerous? Raveth looked around to make sure no one was listening. The Coalition doesn't want members who are too smart or too independent. They want members who need guidance. Members who follow rules without asking questions. Why? Taeyang asked. Control, Raveth said simply. The Coalition has run the galaxy for 10,000 years. They stay in power by making sure no one can challenge them. When a species joins, the Coalition slowly changes them. They restrict their military. They control their trade. They tell them what to research and what to build. After a few generations, those species forget they were ever independent. They become part of the system. Taeyang felt cold. That's what they want to do to humanity. It's what they do to everyone, Raveth said. My own people went through it. 500 years ago, we were explorers and warriors. Now we are scientists and traders, nothing more. The Coalition decided we were better suited for peaceful work. They didn't ask us. They just made it happen slowly over time. Why are you telling me this? Taeyang asked. Raveth's green eyes were sad. Because you passed all 3 trials? No species has done that in 2,000 years. The Coalition is scared of you. They're planning something, and I thought you should know. Back on Earth, Huang Young-Soo was having similar suspicions. He was a journalist who investigated corruption and lies. When everyone else was celebrating humanity's entry into the Coalition, Young-Soo started digging into the Coalition's history. What he found made him sick. Every species that joined the Coalition under the trial system had followed the same pattern. First came trade restrictions, then military limitations, then cultural guidance. Within 100 years, those species had changed completely. They dressed like the Coalition wanted. They thought like the Coalition wanted. They built what the coalition allowed. Young-Su found records of 3 species that had resisted. All 3 were destroyed, not with war, but with economics. The coalition cut off their trade, blocked their expansion, and starved them slowly until they had no choice but to submit completely. He published his findings in a report that spread across Earth's internet. People were angry and scared. The government called emergency meetings. Admiral Jin-Ho read the report and immediately began preparing defensive plans. Just in case, that's when Kim Seung-min stepped forward. He was a businessman who owned several shipping companies. He was also one of the richest people on Earth. When he read Young-Su's report, he made a decision. "We need a backup plan," Seung-min said at a secret meeting with Earth's leaders. "If the coalition tries to control us, we need to be ready to fight back." "Fight the entire galaxy?" one politician asked. "That's insane." "Maybe," Seung-min said. "But it's better than becoming slaves. I'm going to use my money to build a secret fleet. Ships the coalition doesn't know about. Weapons they don't expect. We'll hide them in the outer solar system, just in case we need them." Not everyone agreed with this plan. Many people thought it was too aggressive, too paranoid. But others remembered Young-Su's report. They remembered the species that resisted and were destroyed. In the end, Earth's government made a quiet decision. They would cooperate with the coalition publicly, but secretly they would prepare for the worst. Meanwhile, diplomat Mekyung was attending coalition council meetings, and she was seeing things that worried her. Whenever she suggested new ideas or different approaches to problems, the council rejected them. They always said the same thing: "This is not how we do things." One day, she confronted Valther directly. "Why did you give us those trials if you don't want us to be creative? We solved your problems in ways you didn't expect. Isn't that good?" Valther's 4 eyes blinked slowly. "Creativity is valuable," he said, "but only within proper limits. The galaxy has order because we all follow the same rules. If every species did things their own way, there would be chaos. Or there would be progress," Mekyung said. "Maybe the galaxy needs chaos sometimes." Valther didn't answer. He just walked away. That night, Ravith contacted Taeyang again. This time he sounded urgent. "The council is voting tomorrow. They're going to propose mandatory integration protocols for humanity." "What does that mean?" Taeyang asked. "It means coalition advisors on Earth. It means they'll help guide your government, your military, your research. They'll say it's to help you adjust to galactic society. But really, it's the beginning of the end. Once those advisors are in place, humanity will never be truly independent again." Taeyang immediately contacted Earth. He spoke to Jin-Ho, Mekyung, Young-Su, and Seung-min on a secure channel. They all met virtually, their faces serious on the screen. "What do we do?" Taeyang asked. "We say no," Seung-min said firmly. "We refuse the advisors. If we refuse, they might blockade us," Mekyung warned. "Cut us off from the rest of the galaxy. Then we survive on our own," Jin-Ho said. "We did it before we met the coalition. We can do it again." "We need more information," Young-Su said. "We need to know if other species feel the way Ravith does. Maybe we're not alone in this." Mekyung nodded. "I'll reach out to other species quietly. See who might be sympathetic to our position." Over the next week, they learned the truth. Dozens of species across the galaxy were unhappy with the coalition. They felt controlled, restricted, and trapped. But they were all too scared to speak up. The coalition was too powerful. Resistance seemed impossible. Until humanity showed them something different, when the Coalition Council formally proposed the integration protocols. Mekyung stood up in the council chamber and spoke clearly. "Earth respectfully declines these protocols. We appreciate the coalition's offer, but we wish to develop at our own pace in our own way." The chamber went silent. No species had ever refused before. Valther stood up, all 4 eyes focused on Mekyung. "You don't understand what you're doing. Without guidance, humanity will make mistakes. You could hurt yourselves. Then we'll learn from those mistakes," Mekyung said. "That's what humans do. We fall down, we get up, we try again. We don't need someone to catch us every time. This is your final answer? Velthar asked. Yes, Mi-kyung said. Velthar looked at the other council members. Then the council will vote on appropriate measures. This session is adjourned. As Mi-kyung left the chamber, she received a message from Ravath. It was just 2 words. They're coming. The coalition blockade arrived at dawn. 300 ships surrounded the solar system. Their weapons pointed at Earth. The message was clear. Submit or suffer. Admiral Jinho stood in Earth's Defense Command Center and looked at the screens showing the enemy fleet. It was the largest military force ever assembled in human history, and it was there to crush them. They're hailing us, his communications officer said. Velthar's face appeared on the screen. This is your last chance, humanity. Accept coalition guidance peacefully, or we will take control by force. You have 24 hours to decide. Jinho kept his face calm, even though his heart was racing. We already gave you our answer. Earth will remain independent. Then you choose destruction? Velthar said. We gave you every opportunity. What happens now is your own fault. The screen went dark. Jin-Ho turned to his team. How long until we're ready? The secret fleet needs 12 more hours to reach position, his tactical officer said. Kim Sung-min's ships are moving into place now. And the defense grid? Jin-Ho asked. Ready? All asteroids are armed? All stations are prepared. We've done everything we can. It wasn't enough. Jin-Ho knew that. 300 coalition ships against maybe 50 human vessels. It was suicide. But what choice did they have? If they surrendered now, humanity would become slaves in everything but name. On the Morning Star, Taeyang was preparing for the most dangerous mission of his life. He and a small group of volunteer ships were going to try to break through the blockade. If they could reach neutral space, they could tell the galaxy what was really happening. They could show other species that resistance was possible. Hannah was working on the ship's engines, making them faster. This is crazy, she said. We're going to die. Probably, Taeyang agreed. But at least we'll die free. Beora was going to lead the attack that would create a hole in the blockade. Her fighter squadron, just 25 pilots, would hit the coalition line hard and fast. It was a suicide mission, but every pilot had volunteered. Remember, Beora told her team over the radio, we're not trying to win. We're just trying to make enough chaos for Taeyang to slip through. Fight dirty. Use everything we taught you. Make them think there are more of us than there really are. On Earth, Mi-kyung was doing something different. She was sending secret messages to every species Raveth had told her about. Species that were tired of coalition control. Species that wanted freedom but were too afraid to act alone. Her message was simple. Humanity is fighting back. Join us or watch what happens when you resist. Meanwhile, Young-Soo was broadcasting everything to the entire galaxy. He set up cameras on Earth, on the defense stations, everywhere. The whole galaxy would watch this battle. They would see that humanity refused to bow down. The coalition tried to jam his signal, but Hannah had taught his team some tricks. They kept broadcasting no matter what. 20-4 hours passed. The coalition fleet began moving forward. This is it, Jinho said quietly. All ships, execute defensive plan Alpha. May Earth be with you. The battle began with Beora's attack. Her squadron came out of nowhere, hidden behind the moon. They hit the coalition line with everything they had. Missiles, bullets, lasers, even nuclear weapons. The coalition ship's shields held, but they were surprised by the ferocity of the attack. Now! Beora screamed. Taeyang, go now. Taeyang pushed his engines to maximum. The Morning Star and 15 other cargo ships raced toward the gap Beora's attack had created. Coalition ships tried to block them, but Beora's fighters were everywhere, causing confusion and chaos. 3 human ships exploded, hit by coalition weapons. Then 5 more. But Taeyang kept flying. Behind them, the main battle started. Kim Sung-min's secret fleet appeared from the outer solar system. 50 ships, all armed with weapons the coalition had never seen. Human engineers had spent 6 months developing new technology, combining old and new ideas in ways The aliens never expected. They had nuclear-pumped lasers that punched through energy shields. They had cyber weapons that infected coalition computer systems. They had kinetic weapons that moved too fast to track. And they had something no one expected: kamikaze drones, small, cheap, and deadly. These drones were programmed to crash into coalition ships at maximum speed. The aliens could shoot down some, but not all. When the drones hit, they exploded with devastating force. The coalition fleet was confused. This wasn't how warfare worked in civilized space. This was brutal, dirty, and effective. Admiral Jinho watched from Earth as the battle unfolded. The coalition was winning. They had more ships and more firepower. But they were also losing faster than they expected. Human tactics were unpredictable. Human weapons were strange. Human pilots were willing to die for their cause. "Sir, we're getting reports," his communications officer said. "Other species are watching the broadcast. Some are sending messages of support." "Support doesn't help us if we're dead," Jinho said. But inside he felt a small spark of hope. In space, Taeyong was almost through the blockade. Only 2 ships remained with him. The others had been destroyed, covering his escape. Coalition ships were chasing him, but Bo-Ra's squadron was still fighting, still causing chaos. "Bo-Ra status report," Taeyang called. Static, then Bo-Ra's voice, weak and strained. "We're down to 7 fighters. But we're still here. Keep going, Captain. Don't stop for anything." Taeyang wanted to cry, but there was no time. He pushed his ship harder. Then something unexpected happened. A ship appeared between Taeyang and the pursuing coalition vessels. It wasn't human. It was Ravath's science vessel, and it was firing on the coalition ships. "Go!" Ravath's voice came over the radio. "I'll hold them here." "Ravath, no!" Taeyang shouted. "Tell the galaxy what you saw here," Ravath said. "Tell them not everyone supports the coalition. Tell them it's time for change." Ravath's ship exploded, taking 2 coalition ships with it. Taeyang and his 2 remaining ships jumped to faster than light speed. They were through. They were free. Back at Earth, the coalition fleet suddenly stopped advancing. Admiral Jinho watched in confusion as the enemy ships began retreating. "Sir, we're getting a transmission from Velthar," his officer said. Velthar appeared on screen. His 4 eyes looked tired. "Ceasefire. We are withdrawing." "Why?" Jinho asked. "You're winning." "Because the entire galaxy is watching," Velthar said quietly. "Because 3 other species just declared independence from the coalition. Because 7 more are preparing to do the same. Because you showed them that resistance is possible." He paused. "You have won this battle, human. But this is not over." The coalition fleet disappeared in flashes of light, leaving the solar system as quickly as they had come. On Earth, people poured into the streets, celebrating. They had survived. They had won, but Jinho knew the truth. This was just the beginning. The real war was coming. 3 weeks after the battle, Taeyang stood on the bridge of his ship and looked at the fleet surrounding him. 50 vessels from a dozen different species. All of them were here because they had watched humanity fight. All of them wanted freedom. His destination was the coalition capital, a massive space station called Unity Prime. He wasn't going to fight. He was going to talk. "Are you sure about this?" Hannah asked. She was nervous. They all were. "This could be a trap." "No," Taeyang admitted. "But we have to try." The galaxy had changed in 3 weeks. 7 species had declared independence from the coalition. Dozens more were demanding reform. The system that had controlled the galaxy for 10,000 years was falling apart, all because humanity refused to bow down. On Earth, Admiral Jinho was training pilots from other species. They came to learn human tactics, human strategies, human ways of thinking. He taught them that you didn't need the biggest ships or the best weapons. You needed creativity, courage, and the will to do whatever it took to protect your freedom. "The coalition fights with overwhelming force," Jinho explained to a class of alien pilots. "They expect everyone to fight the same way, but you don't have to. Use their expectations against them. Be unpredictable. Be bold. Make them afraid of what you might do next. Youngsu's broadcasts had made him famous across the galaxy. He was getting messages from journalists on 100 worlds, all wanting to tell their own stories of coalition control. The truth was spreading like fire. Diplomat Nikyung was working with Ravath's people. Before Ravath died, he had given her the names of other scientists and thinkers who believed in freedom. She was building a network, a coalition of her own. Not based on control, but on choice, and Kim Sung-min was quietly building more ships. Hope for the best, he told his engineers, but prepare for the worst. When Taeyong's fleet arrived at Unity Prime, they were met by a coalition security force. But they didn't attack. They just escorted the human ship to a docking bay. Velthor was waiting inside. His 4 eyes looked different now. Less arrogant, more tired. Captain Taeyong, he said, you have caused more trouble in 3 months than any species in coalition history. I didn't want trouble, Taeyong said. I just wanted freedom. Freedom, Velthor repeated the word like it tasted strange. The coalition has brought order to the galaxy for 10,000 years. We ended wars. We stopped conflicts. We made the galaxy safe. You made it boring, Taeyong said. You made every species the same. You took away their choices and called it help. Velthor was quiet for a moment. Then he said something unexpected. Come with me. I want to show you something. He led Taeyong through the station to a massive room filled with holographic displays. Each one showed a different war, a different conflict, a different disaster from the galaxy's history. This is why the coalition exists, Velthor said. 10,000 years ago, the galaxy was chaos. Species fought over every planet, every resource. Billions died. The coalition was formed to stop the killing. We created rules. We enforced order. Yes, we limited freedom. But we saved lives. Taeyong looked at the displays. The wars were terrible. He understood why someone would want to stop them. But you went too far? Taeyong said quietly. You didn't just stop wars. You stopped progress. You stopped change. You made the galaxy safe, but you also made it stagnant. Nothing grows without risk, Velthor. Nothing improves without the freedom to fail. And if that freedom leads to war again? Velthor asked. Then we fight the war, Taeyong said. But at least it's our choice. At least we're alive, really alive, not just existing in a cage you built for us. Velthor looked at the holographic displays for a long time. Finally, he spoke again. The council is meeting now. They're voting on whether to continue trying to control humanity or to let you go. Some want to destroy Earth completely to make an example of you. Others want to reform the coalition. I don't know which side will win. What do you want? Taeyong asked. Velthor's 4 eyes blinked slowly. I don't know anymore. I believed in the coalition my whole life. I thought we were helping younger species grow. But watching humanity fight, watching other species rise up, I wonder if we were just afraid. Afraid of change. Afraid of losing control. It's not too late, Taeyong said. The galaxy doesn't have to choose between chaos and control. There's a middle path. Species can work together by choice, not force. They can help each other without controlling each other. Is that what you propose? Velthor asked. Yes, Taeyong said. A new coalition. One based on respect, not rules. Where species join because they want to, not because they have to. Where differences are celebrated, not eliminated. Velthor laughed, that cold sound Taeyong remembered from their first meeting. But this time it sounded different. Less certain. The council will never agree to that. Then the council will fall, Taeyong said simply. You saw what happened. 7 species left in 3 weeks. How many more will leave next month? Next year? The old coalition is dying, Velthor. The only question is what comes next. The council meeting lasted for hours. Taeyong waited outside with his crew. Other species representatives gathered too, all of them waiting to hear their fate. Finally, the doors opened. Velthor emerged, followed by the other council members. They all looked old and tired. The council has voted, Velthor announced. We have decided to reform. The coalition will no longer require species to pass trials for membership. We will no longer place mandatory advisors on member worlds. We will no longer restrict military or technological development. A cheer went up from the gathered crowd, but Velthor wasn't finished. However, he continued, these reforms will not happen overnight. We are proposing a transition period of 10 years. During this time, the Council will work with all species to create a new charter, a new way of governing the galaxy. And if we don't like this new charter? Someone asked. Then you are free to leave, Velthor said. No species will be forced to remain in the coalition against their will. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't everything Taeyang had hoped for. But it was a start. Over the next year, Mikyung led the effort to write the new charter. Representatives from hundreds of species worked together, arguing and compromising. It was messy and slow, but it was real democracy. Bora, who had somehow survived the battle with only minor injuries, became a symbol of resistance across the galaxy. Young pilots from dozens of species wanted to train with her, to learn how humans fought. Sung-min opened his shipyards to other species, sharing human technology freely. Some coalition members worried this would create new conflicts, but Sung-min believed in mutual strength. If we all have good ships and weapons, he said, then no one can bully anyone else. Young-soo continued broadcasting, but now his stories were about cooperation and hope instead of just corruption and control. Admiral Jin-ho retired from military service and became a teacher, spreading human military philosophy across the galaxy. His core message was simple: fight for freedom, not for conquest. Defend your people, but respect others. Hannah worked with alien engineers to develop new technologies that combined the best ideas from multiple species. She proved that diversity made everyone stronger. And Taeyang went back to flying cargo routes. But now when he traveled, he saw a galaxy that was waking up. Species that had been quiet for centuries were speaking up. Ideas that had been suppressed were being explored. The galaxy was becoming alive again. One day, 5 years after that first meeting with Velthor, Taeyang received a message. A new species had just developed faster than light travel. They were ready to meet the galaxy. The coalition asked Taeyang to be part of the greeting committee. When he arrived at the meeting point, he found Velthor there too. This is your influence, Velthor said. We do first contact differently now. When the new species ship appeared, it was welcomed with celebration, not tests. They were given information, not commands. They were offered friendship, not control. The captain of the alien ship looked around in wonder. This is not what we expected, she said through her translator. Taeyang smiled. The galaxy is full of surprises. You'll find that we're all still learning how to do this right. As the celebration continued, Taeyang looked out at the stars. The galaxy wasn't perfect. There were still conflicts and problems. But now there was also hope. Now there was freedom. Humanity had arrived in the galaxy like a storm, unexpected and powerful. The coalition had anticipated a minor event, another primitive species to guide and control. Instead, humanity had changed everything. And the change was just beginning.